Sometimes, the quietest days tell the loudest stories. Imagine a man who has touched millions of hearts through movies, yet on his own birthday, he sits in silence. No crowd, no party, no noise. Just him, a candle, and a knock that changes everything, by the way. Where are you watching this story from? Drop your city or country in the comments side. Love to see how far these stories travel. Keanu Reeves, a man loved by the world, never made much fuss about his birthday. For years, while others celebrated with lights, crowds, and gifts, he chose quiet. He would walk alone through Los Angeles, his hands tucked in his pockets, greeting strangers with small nods, never asking for more. That year was no different. By noon, he returned to his small apartment. It was simple, filled with books, music, records, and a few unopened presents from years past. He made coffee and sat by the window, watching the world rush by below. The phone stayed silent. No calls, no messages. Not because people had forgotten, but because he had chosen not to remind them. He didn't want a party. He didn't want noise. Yet, even the strongest hearts feel a quiet ache on birthdays. A reminder that we are human, and that one kind word can sometimes mean more than a lifetime of applause. That evening, Keanu placed a small cake on the table. Nothing fancy, just white frosting and a single candle. He lit it, whispered, "Another year," and blew it out. The room returned to silence. Then came the knock. Gentle, 3 soft taps on the door. He froze. Friends always texted before visiting. Neighbors respected his privacy. Slowly, his heart beating faster, he walked to the door. The knock came again, calm, patient. He reached for the knob, hesitated, and whispered to himself, "This moment will change everything." When he opened it, he saw a woman holding a small paper bag. Her eyes soft but nervous. The woman stood quietly, clutching the paper bag like it was fragile. Her voice trembled as she asked, "Are you Keanu Reeves?" He gave her a small, kind smile. "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" She looked unsure, almost ready to leave, but then she stepped forward. Keanu gently moved aside and invited her in. She hesitated, then nodded. Inside, the apartment was calm. Books stacked neatly, a record playing faintly, no sign of Hollywood wealth, just peace and silence. The woman set the bag on the table. "I work at a bookstore nearby," she explained. "A few days ago, someone left this envelope on the counter. No name, no address. Only one word written on the front, Keanu." She pulled out the envelope and handed it to him. The paper looked old, the handwriting delicate, almost from another time. Keanu held it carefully, his breath unsteady. "And you brought this to me?" he asked. She nodded. "Something told me it mattered." With slow hands, Keanu tore the envelope open. Inside was a folded letter. The handwriting stopped him in his tracks. He knew it immediately. It was from someone he had lost long ago, a friend from his youth, someone who vanished without a goodbye. His throat tightened. The words blurred before his eyes, but he forced himself to keep reading. "Dear Keanu, if you are reading this, then I was right. You are still here, living with the quiet strength you always carried. I am sorry for leaving without a word. You were never forgotten. You mattered to me. Happy birthday, my friend." Tears welled in Keanu's eyes. His hands shook as he lowered the letter. The woman across from him stayed silent, sensing the storm inside him. Finally, he whispered, "This was written for today. Today is my birthday." Her eyes widened. She softly replied, "Then maybe it was meant to find you now." Keanu sat quietly, the letter resting in his hands. He finally spoke the name he had carried for decades. "Daniel, this handwriting, it belongs to Daniel. He was my closest friend before everything, before Hollywood, before fame. One day, he just disappeared." The woman, whose name was Elena, listened carefully. "Do you want to find him?" she asked softly. Keanu hesitated. Searching meant reopening old wounds. But the words on the page were clear. "If fate allows, you will find me again," he whispered. Maybe this is a sign. The next morning, 𝐼𝐞𝐤 returned with coffee and a notebook. Together, they searched old neighborhoods, schools, names. At first, every trail went cold. But then 𝐼𝐞𝐤 found a small mention online. The Daniel Reeves Foundation, supporting underprivileged youth in Toronto. Keanu's breath caught. Toronto, that's where we grew up. This could be him. The decision was clear. They booked flights. Toronto's cold air carried memories. Streets and buildings whispered pieces of Keanu's past. Together, he and 𝐼𝐞𝐤 walked to a modest building tucked between shops. A simple sign read, Daniel Reeves Foundation. Inside, children's laughter filled the halls. Drawings covered the walls. A volunteer greeted them warmly. When asked about Daniel, the volunteer hesitated, then said, "Wait here." Minutes felt like hours. Finally, at the end of the hall, a figure appeared. Older now, with silver hair, but the eyes, they were the same. Keanu whispered Daniel. Daniel froze, disbelief flooding his face. Then, with no hesitation, they embraced. The hug was long and heavy, carrying decades of silence and regret. "I thought I lost you," Keanu said, voice trembling. "I left because I was drowning," Daniel admitted. "I thought leaving would protect you. But every day, I regretted it." Keanu's reply was gentle but firm. "You didn't have to carry it alone. I would have stood with you." Tears fell. Smiles broke through. And for the first time in years, Keanu's birthday was not silent. It was filled with connection, healing, and hope. That night, as snow began to fall, Keanu looked at the sky and whispered, "All those years alone. And this was the gift I never expected." 𝐼𝐞𝐤 smiled. Sometimes, the universe waits for the right moment. And Keanu nodded, knowing in his heart, sometimes all it takes is a knock at the door.